I have some more movie making tea, and this time about how Twilight, the original Twilight movie in 2008, came into being, because it's interesting. So before the book has even been published, Paramount gets their hands on it and are like, yes, lots of money to be made here. We're going to develop this. And they start developing the Twilight movie, not really paying attention to how the book actually is. So apparently it was way more of an action movie and included this whole subplot about the FBI being after vampires and coming to attack them, and they're having to like kill the FBI off like one-on-one. There was a whole sequence about them being pursued on jet skis, that kind of vibe. Also, Charlie dies in the first movie, in the original screenplay. In the original screenplay, Bella becomes a vampire in the first movie. Interesting. But the screenplay kept getting bogged down, and there was like problems at Paramount. Not really sure what happened, but in a nutshell, they expired their contract on it, and it was then up for grabs by any other production company. And then Summit, who ended up making it, grabbed it immediately and then started making their own version with Stephenie Meyer, so it was true to the books. By this time, the books had come out and been like a massive commercial bestseller. And then Paramount started a witch hunt, being like, how the hell did we have the rights to this movie? And then we lost the rights to this movie. How did that happen? I think somebody might have got fired. Now, Summit didn't have a lot of budget, and so they hired indie movie director Catherine Hardwicke, who had done 13. Remember that movie? Which actually, now I think about it, very similar, like camera style and like cool tone, and also literally the same actress. So Bella Swan was cast first. So Kristen Stewart, she was brought in to do chemistry readings with all the top runners for Edward. Now the top front runner for Edward was actually Ben Barnes, who was Prince Caspian. I love him, scrumptious. The other top favourite for Edward was Jackson Rathbone, who ended up still being in the movie, but not playing Edward. But apparently Robert Pattinson's chemistry read with Kristen Stewart was so good that he ended up getting the role, because Kristen Stewart and Stephenie Meyers really pushed for him. But he nearly got fired in the middle of filming. Literally, he kept it by the skin of his teeth. Because Robert Pattinson wanted to play Edward really dark and moody and brooding and emo, whereas the execs of the film were like, no, they're happy, they're in love, they're having like the best time of their lives, and kept highlighting in the book where every time Edward smiled, and he kept highlighting every time Edward frowned. But literally there was like an emergency meeting with his agents, and they were like, you are going to get fired today unless you stop frowning and be a bit more lighter with it. You need to start acting lighter. And so Robert Pattinson said he came back from lunch and was like, hello everybody, hi there, because he didn't want to lose his job. However, it turns out in the long run he was right, and the whole moody broody emo Edward thing became what this series is known for. So he was right. Now, Nikki Reed was not a natural blonde. I feel you, sister. She has very, very, very dark, coarse hair. It took her 36 hours to bleach her hair blonde for the role of Rosalie, and so much so that her hair fell out and was getting seriously damaged. So then for all the other movies, they put her in a wig, kind of a bad wig. But it was because she literally lost her hair. Now, the budget of the movie came in at $37 million, but that included all marketing and buying the rights. So the actual production budget was literally like $20 million or something. It was very low budget, and they had to scrap all visual effects, all special effects, camera had to be just scrapped. So they did all of their own stunt work, and they did it all in real terms with wires. So all of the stuff with the trees, that's why they do the weird like fast edit, speed it up, and wire work, because they just literally had no money. So yes, they also only had a 50-day shoot, which is incredibly fast to be shooting a full-length feature Hollywood movie. But Catherine Hardwicke delivered the movie in time and under budget, which is just insane considering what they did to her later on. That's got a sting. So the movie, as you know, went on to be a huge commercial success. They made $69 million in the first opening weekend alone. So they made back their money and some in like the first weekend. So Catherine Hardwicke was like, amazing. They were like immediately, like the next day, we need to make number two. We need to make number two. And she was like, yeah, absolutely. I'd really love to. But this time I don't want to be rushed and I need to have a proper budget because it was ridiculous, the amount of constraints I was under. So please, can I have like a bit of a better budget and can I have a little bit of time so that we do this really properly and that we do it right? And of course the studio went, no, absolutely not. How dare you ask for more money, peasant. And they sacked her and they fired her. The whole visual, the lady that literally brought us the visual of Twilight and its whole kind of vibe and dynamic, got fired from it for asking for a little bit more time, a reasonable amount of time, shall we say. And then it just got given to other male directors, and that's why the other movies are so different from the first one. Crazy. So a lot of stuff went wrong in the following 3 movies, the sagas, but I'm going to put that in another video because I see them as 2 separate entities at this point. Whatever you think about Twilight, it had a massive, massive social impact, and I remember this dearly from my like teenage years, so I've got a sweet spot for it. A guilty pleasure, may I say. Yes.